Chapter 1. Oops. Kirito, Asuna said as she bit her lip nervously. Are you sure this is going to work? What happens if the project fails? Will Yui be okay? Kazuto smiled patiently at his girlfriend and replied with as much reassurance as he could. Don't worry about it. I'm sure Yui's data is saved in multiple backups, so even if something happens this time around, her core programming will be alright. Kazuto turned his attention back to the dome-like machine that he had worked so hard to create over the past 2 years. In theory, he could use it to bring his beloved daughter into the real world. Now it was time to see if the idea could become reality. He plugged in his World Seed cartridge and then moved on to hook up his nerve gear in another port. He lit up his computer console and began typing commands at a furious pace. Asuna watched him nervously, praying that their daughter would come out of this whole thing safe and sound. The machine roared to life, and Asuna turned her attention to it. Inside the glass dome, a shape made of light began to take place. She gasped as the shape began to consolidate into the form of a small girl. Kazuto smiled broadly as he saw all of his hard work begin to pay off. Then the monitor began to flash red. Asuna noticed it and frowned. Kirito? What's happening? I'm not sure. The boy frowned as he began to type new commands into the computer. Looking over at Yui, they both saw that she was nearly fully formed, and nothing appeared to be out of order, but... The computer says there's some kind of external influence that's adding an extra flux of power. Kazuto frowned harder. And I can't locate the source. It's locking me out and I can't shut it down. What? What'll happen to Yui? Asuna looked back at the little girl who appeared to be a sleeping child with a soft glow about her, almost like an angel. But this little angel might also be in trouble. Isn't there any way to override it? The flame-haired girl asked as she placed her hands on the dome. Only one, Kazuto said as he got off his seat. He grabbed a crowbar that he used during construction and prepared to swing it at the dome. Stand back! You might hurt Yui! Asuna protested. I'd rather fix a few cuts than have her program messed with, Kazuto snapped. Now get back, I don't want to hurt you either! Asuna reluctantly stepped aside and renewed her prayer that all would be well. Kazuto swung at the glass, and the world went blindingly white. The two teenagers were flung backwards from the force of the explosion, and they couldn't see Yui. Then, when the light was faded, all was black. Kazuto awoke to feel a light weight on his chest. He groaned and opened his eyes to see Yui resting peacefully on his body, and a smile lit up his face. He had done it. His daughter was in the real world with him and Asuna where she belonged. Asuna! The teenager got up quickly, jostling Yui and waking the little girl up. Oops, he muttered. Daddy? She mumbled. Hi, where's... Suddenly her eyes flew open and she looked around as she realized what had happened. She gasped as a smile lit up her face. She looked up at Kazuto and threw her arms around him, squealing, Daddy, I'm real! I'm with you and I'm real! She began to cry happily. Kazuto held his daughter close and tight, but he searched for his girlfriend in their surroundings, which surprised him. They were in an open field. The sky above them was magnificent blue, and there wasn't a house around. No Asuna either. Yui, he murmured, setting the girl down gently. Do you know where Mommy is? Isn't she with you? The little girl asked as she looked around the field. Wait, I thought that I would be at your house in the real world. Kazuto frowned at that. Yeah, so did I, he muttered. But we're not at home. I don't know where we are. Wait, do you remember the accident? He studied his daughter carefully for any signs of damage and was relieved to find none. No, Daddy, Yui said with a puzzled expression. What accident? In response, her father explained what had happened when he tried to pull her out of the World Seed. When he was done explaining, he sighed and said, So, now I'm just wondering where we are. I hope Asuna is okay. Do you have a clue as to what happened here? Before Yui could respond, another voice called out to them. Ho there, travelers! Are you in need of a guide? The two of them turned to see two men approaching, both dressed in what could only be medieval-style clothing. The first man had azure-colored hair, and was dressed in light armor that left one arm bare, displaying a strange teardrop-shaped tattoo on his right shoulder. The other man was dressed in dark purple robe fringed with golden threads. His hair, unlike his attire, was so pale a blonde as to be almost white. Both men were armed with swords, the blue-haired man with a straight sword, and his companion with a strange blade that could only be described as zigzagged. Kazuto had never seen anything like it before, not even in sword art online. Yui, stand behind me, please, he said quietly. To the man that had spoken, he said in a louder tone, yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us where the nearest town might be. And this may sound strange, but where are we? This sounds familiar, the blue-haired man said with a broad smile. The nearest town is about a mile that way. He pointed to the west. And you are in the Holodom of Elise. The place that I refer to is actually the capital, Elistal. Elise? Kazuto repeated with a frown. I've never heard of such a place. Turning back to his daughter, he muttered, You're positive we're not in another game, right? Her immediate shake of the head left him even more confused. Then, the blond man said, drawing Kazuto's attention, "Perhaps some introductions are in order? My name's Robin, and I'm the Grandmaster Tactician of the Elysian Shepherds. My friend here is Crom, Captain of said militia. May we know your names?" Yeah, sure," Kazuto replied, realizing that his behavior might be considered rude. "My name is Kazuto Kiriyaya, though most people just call me Kirito. And this is my daughter, Yui." The girl smiled and waved shyly from behind her father. "A pleasure to meet you, Kirito," Crom said as he extended his hand. As Kazuto shook it firmly, Robin frowned. "Wait, how is this little girl your daughter?" he asked, confused. "You don't seem old enough to be her parent." "It's a long story, but you might just say that she's adopted," Kazuto responded. "Ah." Robin nodded his understanding. "Very well. And don't worry about the whole disorientation thing. I actually had a similar situation a couple of years ago." This got Kazuto's attention. "You did?" "Yes, indeed," Crom said with a smile. "I found Robin not too far from here, actually. He was completely memory-free, save for the knowledge of his name and some very nifty tactics. Since then, he's become my best friend and confidant." "Do you have memory problems as well?" Kazuto stalled, scratching his head as he tried to think of what was happening. "It's kind of hard to explain," he said. "See, I was messing around with some transmatter tech, and then there was some kind of explosion, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up here with Yui, and my girlfriend is missing." Crom and Robin both gave puzzled frowns. "I didn't understand the first part," Robin said, "but I believe you were looking for someone dear to you, yes?" "Yeah, we were gonna go find Mommy, but then you guys showed up," Yui cut in. "You're not married to your child's mother?" Crom scowled. "Well, hey," Kazuto made a placating gesture. "I said before, it's not like that. Yui's adopted. Long story short, Asuna and I saved her life and decided to adopt her." "Oh," Crom said, chastened. "Forgive me, I apologize for my outburst." Don't worry about it," Kazuto said. "Asuna's the name of your beloved." Robin cut back in. Kazuto reddened at the term beloved, but he nodded his assent. "Do you wish to have help in finding her?" "Actually, that would be really appreciated," Kazuto said. "But if you don't mind me asking, why are you so eager to help a stranger?" "Because strangers remind me of Robin here," Crom said as he clapped his friend on the shoulder. I like getting out and meeting new people. It makes my life more interesting, and I have a duty to people I protect." "Well, okay then," Kazuto said. "Thanks in advance, I guess." "No problem," Robin said. "But perhaps we should first go into town and get you some proper clothing. The items you're currently wearing are rather odd, to say the least." "Me?" Kazuto sniffed. "You guys are the ones that dressed up like you belong in an old castle. Isn't this how normal people dress around here?" Robin and Crom exchanged another puzzled look before the leader of the two replied, "We may not dress like commoners, but we are closer to a normal appearance than you are. Although I will say your daughter's dress is suitable, and dare I say adorable." Yui giggled at the compliment, which caused the three young men to smile. It was a talent of Yui's, Kazuto thought. She was a delightful person to be around. However, "Will you excuse us for just one moment?" he asked. "Of course," Robin replied. "Take all the time you need. We're in no hurry." "What do you think is happening, Daddy?" Yui asked with large eyes. "It's as if we are in a game, but I can tell we're not." Kazuto mused. "My best guess is, though crazy as it sounds, is this. When I attempted to bring you into reality and the extra energy surge messed with the machine, it must have flung us into another reality?" He realized how stupid it sounded once he said it out loud. He shook his head as if trying to get rid of the thought. However, to his surprise, Yui seemed to agree with him. "That actually makes sense," she said softly. "I can't really come up with any alternatives to explain this situation." "Yeah, I guess so," Kazuto murmured. Then he stood and helped Yui to her feet. "Well, I guess this is Alfheim all over again," he scowled. "Let's just hope there's nobody like Sugo in this place." "I hope not," Yui said with a shudder. "He was really mean." "I've got a few other words for the guy, but I can't go and say those in front of Yui," Kazuto thought sourly. Aloud, he smiled and said, "Well, that adventure is over, but it looks like we'll just have to start a new one, huh?" "Okay," Yui said with a smile. Kazuto scooped her up in his arm and began walking back to Crom and Robin. "We're ready now," he called out in advance. "Great," Robin said. "Let's go out and get you some new clothes." Kazuto, of course, selected an attire that closely resembled his outfit from SAO. He got black pants and a shirt, and of course, his trademark waistcoat. Robin and Crom told him not to worry about paying for the items, insisting that they could easily afford it. Judging from the way the red-haired shopkeeper talked to the two men, they were well familiar with one another. Yui opted to stick with her white dress, though she did manage to sucker Crom into buying a silver tiara for her as a new addition to her clothing. Kazuto just rolled his eyes as Crom let the little girl play him like a fiddle, but he couldn't help but smile as she marveled at her surroundings, as if everyday experiences experiencing everything for the first time all over again. When they were done with that, Crom suddenly stopped and turned to Kazuto with the words, "Kirito, I forgot to ask earlier, but Can you fight? Kazuto grinned and said, where I come from, I was known as the Black Swordsman or the Dual Wielder. So, to answer your question, yes, I can fight. I was one of the best. Robin and Crom exchanged a look and a smile. Well, would you mind giving us a demonstration then? Robin asked. Gladly, Kazuto replied. But if it's all the same to you, could we try to find Asuna first? That's kind of my priority right now. Oh, yeah! Robin exclaimed. Sorry about that, I guess I just got a little distracted. That's alright, Kazuto said with a wave of his hand. Well, why don't we go back to headquarters and let the other shepherds know what's going on, Crom suggested. That way we can search for your friend more quickly. Wait, Kazuto said, your militia? Why would they help me? Because I'll ask them to, Crom said with a smile. The realm is at peace right now, and we have no real pressing matters. So I'm sure a little search would be more exciting than whatever else they're doing right now. Okay? Kazuto, still in shock at how nice these people were being. Thanks again. I don't really have any money to pay you back for this, but don't worry about it, Robin said with a wave of his hand. Doing this kind of thing is our job. And if you really want to pay us back later, we can discuss that once you've found Asuna. Sound fair? Yeah, sure, Kazuto said with a smile. Taking Yui's hand in his own, he said, Alright then, let's get going. I hope you're ready to meet the other shepherds, Crom said with a grin. I think you'll like at least some of them. After they'd been walking along for a bit and the capital was coming into view, Kazuto asked, So, your guild is called the Shepherds? And you're like the law enforcement of your country? Something like that, Robin replied over his shoulder. We're a group of people with special skills that tackle some of the more difficult missions, both inside and outside elites. In times of war, we're the elite forces that take on tasks like infiltrating a castle and taking out the commanding officer before the mass-scale fighting begins. Huh, Kazuto replied. I was on a team like that at one point. We were always on the front lines because we were the strongest, and my dual-wielding skill made me the kind of go-to guy for some of the harder fights. In a way, it was cool, but most of the time I wished other people would take up the standard so I could have some peace and quiet. Trust me, I understand that one, Robin muttered. Oh, shut up, Crom chuckled. You aren't the only one. Fair enough, I suppose. Let's see. What do you mean, Robin? Kazuto asked. Well, I'm the only tactician in the Shepherds, so all the planning and strategy falls to me. Robin sighed. Excuse me. Kazuto realized that his daughter was getting kind of heavy, so he looked her in the eye and said, Yui, sorry, but I'm going to have to put you down. He grunted as he lowered her. I'm just getting a little tired. Aw, she pouted. You never used to get tired. Yeah, well, that was in Alfheim, he replied. We're IRL, remember? Things are a little different now. Sorry. He smiled apologetically as he spoke. Okay, she said disappointedly. Just give me a little while and then I can carry you again, alright? He gently ruffled her hair as he said it. Okay, she smiled brightly. Thanks, Daddy. It was late afternoon when they reached the base of operations for the Shepherds. Yui and Kazuto chatted about some of their adventures in Aincrad and Alfheim with their new companions. Robin and Crom also told them tales about their earlier adventures together when Robin had first become a shepherd. When they arrived, Yui was complaining that she was hungry, to which Crom said, We have plenty of food inside. You can eat your fill after we're done telling everybody about your mommy? He hesitated slightly over the last word, still a little confused about the situation. Okay. Yui sighed, clearly disappointed that she would have to wait. To be honest, both Crom and Robin were surprised that she did not throw a tantrum of some sort. Wherever you come from, are all the children this well behaved? Crom asked Kazuto. Nah, Yui's just special. The boy replied as he smiled warmly at his little girl. She's good. I hope my daughter turns out that well, Crom said as they walked in. You have a daughter? Yes, born just 2 weeks ago. Crom smiled fondly at the thought of his little Lucina with his beloved wife Sumiya. He was about to tell Kirito about them, but then he noticed a number of the shepherds in the barracks and decided to boast about his family later. For now, he would need to introduce the shepherds to his new friends. As he entered the room, he was greeted warmly along with Robin, while Kazuto and Yui stayed in the background. Vake, Cordelia, Lonku, Stahl, and Sully were all present, so the gathering took a little bit of time to quiet down. You almost missed dinner and Gaius is on cooking duty tonight, said Stahl, rubbing his lean stomach in anticipation. Sounds great to me, said Robin, but first we have some other business to discuss. And he gestured at Yui and Kazuto, who were waiting patiently, though Yui looked just about done in. Meet Yui and Kirito. They're looking for a friend of theirs, and they need our help. Oh, why didn't you just say so? The muscular one called Vake declared. Teach was just itching for something to do, and this sounds like something. Can we eat first? Stahl asked hopefully. Yes, we can, Robin said, rolling his eyes. As soon as we're done, we're saddling up and looking for a girl named Asuna. Asuna, huh? Sully mused. What's she look like? Robin looked to Kazuto, who stared at Cordelia. Actually, she looks a little bit like her, he said as he briefly pointed at the Pegasus Knight, although she is shorter. Also, she's probably dressed, oddly, according to those two. He jerked his head at Robin and Crom. What the hell does that mean? Sully asked. Hey! Kazuto snapped at the woman as he clamped his hands over Yui's ears, slightly surprising her. Keep those words to yourself around my daughter. Your what? Long story, Robin said, cutting the indignant Knight off. But just go with it. Now let's go eat and we can fill you in on the details. Captain Crom! A thickly accented voice broke out over the dinner table. Your Highness, we got us a captive. Kazuto's head popped up from his dessert and locked on Crom. Your Highness? He repeated incredulously. Oh yeah, I guess we forgot to mention, Robin grinned. Crom is also the sovereign of Elise. Sorry about that. The prince got up and moved to greet the speaker, a boy named Donald. Hey Donnie, what's this about a prisoner? We captured ourselves a young lady, Your Highness, the boy replied. She's real purty, but she won't answer none of Sir Frederick's questions, so we best bring her here so you can question her yourself. Where's Frederick now? Crom sighed. Right here, my lord, Frederick answered as he dragged a struggling figure into the room, a figure all too familiar to Kazuto and Yui. Mommy! The little girl cried. Asuna! Kazuto exclaimed at the same time. Locking his glare on the heavily armored knight, he shouted, Let her go! Kirito! Yui! You're alright! Pardon me, but who are you to— Drop it, Frederick, Crom said in a tired voice. Let her go. We're actually about to go search for her, it seems, but what did I say about tying people up before asking questions? I asked her first, the knight protested, but given her odd clothing and refusal to speak, I thought that— Frederick the Wary, you were simply too paranoid for your own good, Crom said as he undid the ropes restraining Asuna's hands. The girl immediately ran into Kazuto's embrace, which was quickly joined by Yui. Kirito, she sighed. Then she perked up. What's going on? Where are we? What happened to us? Kazuto sighed and said, This might take a while to explain, and even then I'm not totally sure what's happening here. So let's sit you down and get you some dinner, okay? Yeah, dinner does sound good. And Yui, it's so good to see you in the real world. She gave her daughter a big hug all her own, which she responded with a large smile and a hug of her own. Looking on, several of the shepherds couldn't help but be touched by the scene, although it was noticeable that to several of them that Long Q was doing his best not to run from the room, while Asuna held her little girl only a few feet away from him. Later that night in the castle, when the travelers were settled into some of the rooms back at the headquarters, Robin and Crom discussed what to do with the trio. We should see what they can do, Robin said. Who knows? Maybe they'll turn out to be a real find, like me. I agree, Crom said thoughtfully. The only thing is that little girl. We can't very well have someone that young be in the shepherds. It's unseemly. True, but from what I saw, she won't leave her parents' side no matter what, Robin argued. Maybe we could see if she can use staffs. That way, even if she insists on coming along, she wouldn't be in any danger. Crom tapped his chin thoughtfully. Alright, we'll try that. I'm trusting you, Robin. For their sake in mind, don't let me down. When have I ever? Robin smiled, but it was a dismal attempt. They both knew that the one time he had failed, it had been when it mattered most. Good night, Robin, Crom said with the same smile. Good night. The Red Swordsman, Toa, or Slayer of Aincrad. Chapter 1. The Law of the Sword. Kirito finished adding Asuna to his party before he noticed another person, sitting alone, apart from the others. They were dressed in a black and red cloak, and they stood stiff as a statue. Looking at the girl beside him, he asked, Hey, do you mind if I ask that guy to join us? Not really, she replied. The more in our party, the better chance we have of surviving the boss raid, I guess. And with that, she up and left, clearly indicating that the choice was his to make. Kirito shrugged and walked over to the person. From the build, he could tell that the player was male, but like Asuna, his face was shadowed by his cowl. Hey there, he said as he extended his hand. The other player looked up slightly, but not enough to reveal his features. He shook Kirito's hand readily enough, but he did not speak. Since he seemed to be the silent type, Kirito pulled open his menu and said, So, do you want to join up in a party? It's only going to be for this round if you're not comfortable with the group setting. But you heard, you're going to keep babbling and you're going to send me an invite, the other boy interrupted. His voice was somewhat deep and had a vibrant tone, leading Kirito to believe that this player might be a bit older than him. Yes, I'll join you. Oh, Kirito said. He sent the invite and the other player accepted. Another health bar appeared in Kirito's peripheral vision, along with the name Mataras. Kirito was surprised to see that this player's level matched his own already. Kirito, is it? Mataras asked. So you'd be Japanese then? Yeah, Kirito replied, somewhat startled by the fact that this player figured out his ethnicity so quickly. In Aincrad, everyone sounded like they were speaking their own native language due to a high-tech translating system. And Mataras? What is that? European? I'd be American, if anything, Mataras replied. But I'm living in Japan right now, and my name is Spanish in origin. Although, in light of the nature of this game, I really wish I could change it now. Why's that? Kirito prompted. It means you kill, Mataras replied dryly. I wasn't planning on being a player killer or anything like that, but now people see my name, they might get the wrong idea. Oh, Kirito said, somewhat surprised. But, wait, why are you telling me that if you're worried about people getting the wrong idea? You asked, Mataras replied simply, and you're the first person to want to interact with me without asking for some freebies. Figured I'd show a little gratitude. Standing up, he threw back the cowl on his cloak. The pale face he revealed was no older than 16. The black hair was straight and lengthy, partially obscuring his left eye. The jaw was strong, the eyebrows thick. The nose was a little on the larger side, but not so much so that it made the boy look ugly. The mouth was set in a firm line, and the serious eyes were dark brown, so dark as to be nearly black. The way that he stood showed that he knew how to carry himself properly, but with his back straight and his chin pointed upwards, slightly. He was a slim build, but there was no mistaking the look of confidence that he had about him. The sword on his back proved that he had every right to carry himself as such. The sword was called a Fakora, and it was granted enough stat boosts to keep a player going for at least level 5 or so. It was only rewarded for one quest on the first floor. When in the beta, Kirito had heard about it. When we tried to go for it this time around, he had found that the quest was already completed. This likely meant that Mataras was a beta tester as well, if he had been able to get a hold of the quest so quickly. Kirito was tempted to ask his new teammate about his player history, but decided against it. If he was wrong, with all the trouble the Kiba was trying to stir up, he could very well lose a party member. Done looking? Mataras said, snapping Kirito out of his thoughts. What? He said, oh yeah, so do you want to go get some lunch, or... I already have a lunch packed, Mataras replied. I was going to do some more leveling before tomorrow's raid and eat on the way. Would you care to join me? And maybe that girl that you were talking to before, Asuna? I can message her, but she didn't seem too interested in joining any group activities, Kirito replied as he pulled up his message function on the menu. Mataras shrugged and waited for Kirito to finish his message before beginning to walk toward the field dungeon. They didn't see Asuna until later that evening in the village again, after they'd spent their afternoon leveling up and selling their spoils. Kirito and Mataras were easily able to adapt to the team fighting system. They quickly grew a mutual respect for one another, both as people and as swordsmen. Mataras noticed that Kirito was warm and friendly, but he tended to avoid other people that were lower level than him. Not out of a sense of superiority, but out of a sense of isolation. He knew the beta testers weren't well liked due to their natural advantages over other players, but he seemed to want to avoid causing a scene. Kirito, on the other hand, couldn't really figure Mataras out. Toward himself, Mataras was nice enough, even going so far as to share his lunch with him. But to the other few players that they ran into, he was nothing short of cold and barely cordial. And Kirito couldn't really understand why, but he decided that it didn't matter. After this boss raid, they would likely part ways and barely ever interact again. After all, they were both solo players. And speaking of solo players, they both spotted Asuna, sitting alone, away from the gathering in the front liners. Mataras actually chuckled to himself as he said, "She stole my spot." "What, you're gonna go kick her off of it?" Kirito grinned. "No," Mataras replied. "I'm just going to see if she objects to us joining her." "I thought you didn't like hanging around others," Kirito said as his partner began walking toward the girl. "I don't like hanging around incompetent people," Mataras replied quickly. "And if she's made it this far on her own like you did, I'd hardly call her incompetent." He approached the girl silently and sat down a couple of feet away from her. She eyed him warily as he pulled out a loaf of bread and began to eat it in silence. Kirito sighed and sat down between them, Asuna shifting away from them both a little more than necessary. Noticing that she had the same meal as the two of them, Kirito realized how he could break the ice. "These things taste pretty good, don't they?" he said. Asuna stopped her chewing and swallowed before cocking her head at Kirito. "You really think these taste good?" she asked. "They do," Mataras answered, seeing where Kirito was going. "But Kirito taught me a trick to make it better." With that, he pulled a jar out from his inventory and handed it to Kirito. Tapping his finger on the lid, Mataras used the glowing residue that came off as a spread over a certain substance over his own biscuit. Asuna's curiosity was piqued enough that she tried it herself. Kirito used the last of the item, causing the container to shatter into a number of polygons that quickly faded from existence. Copying Mataras' actions, she was surprised to find that her bread was now smeared with... "Butter?" she asked. Kirito nodded and started munching down on his dinner. Mataras just started eating without a word. Asuna looked down at the bread for another moment, wondering if it might actually improve the plain flavor that had been her usual meals for nearly a month. She took a bite and chewed slowly, unaware of Mataras' eyes on her, waiting to see her reaction. To his surprise, she finished eating with great gusto, wolfing down the food faster than Kirito. Asuna sighed with contentment. Even if it was a simple adjustment, that was easily the best food she'd had in a while in Aincrad. Mataras nodded approvingly to himself and finished eating his own dinner in silence. Kirito, mistaking Mataras' silence for an icy formality, tried to warm things up by saying, "So, Asuna, would you like to know how to get more of that stuff?" He was prepared to explain that once you completed a certain quest, you could unlock the item in stores, but Asuna didn't give him the chance. "No thanks," she said softly. "I really appreciate the offer, but I didn't come here to eat good food." "Then why are you here?" The question came from Mataras, who kept his own gaze on the fountain in the town square. His tone was not hostile, but genuinely curious. Asuna seemed to gather her thoughts before saying, "Because I want to stay true to who I am. I don't want to lock myself away in the town of beginnings and slowly rot away. I want to stay me until the end of this game, even if the end is my death. That way I'll have beat this death game before it even begins." Kirito could think of nothing to say to that, but he didn't expect what Mataras said next. "A noble idea," he said with a smile that to Kirito seemed almost sad. "But before you go trying to stay the same, ask yourself two things. First, are you who you want to be now? And second, even if your experiences in this world do change you against your will, is that necessarily a bad thing?" "What are you talking about?" Asuna asked, turning sharply to the swordsman. "Everything about this game is evil. How could you suggest that anything good might come out of it?" "I'm older than I look," Mataras replied as he stood. "And I've lived long enough to know that even though some would mean certain things for evil, they can still be worked towards good." With that, he walked off to find an inn to spend the night at. "He's older than he looks?" Asuna repeated. She turned to Kirito, who looked just as confused as she felt. "What does that mean? Everyone looks exactly like they do in the real world, right? The mirror saw to that, didn't they?" Kirito could only shrug his shoulders in response. The next day, the raid party grouped up and set out to find the boss's lair. Asuna and Mataras both walked with their hoods up, making Kirito feel slightly out of place, but he didn't comment on the matter. It turned out that Asuna had no real idea how to play in a party, so Kirito and Mataras walked her through the various strategies and commands that went to a party fight. They stayed a bit behind the main group to have a little privacy for themselves. Once that was done, Asuna turned to Mataras and said, "Did you avoid using the mirror, Mataras?" Although his cowl was up, Asuna had the feeling that the other player had raised his eyebrow in an amused gesture at the question. "No," he replied with a small smirk. "Why do you ask?" "Well, you only look a little older than me, so I was wondering about your comment last night," she admitted, a little nonplussed. Mataras chuckled softly in response. "Appearance and age don't always move at the same pace," he said. "But it also depends on what kind of aging you're thinking about. For example, if you're referring to my biological age, then yes, I am as young as I look. But if you take into account the things that I've lived through, you'd know that an old soul rests in this young body." "So, long story short, you've had a troubled childhood?" Kirito asked. "Something like that," the cloaked swordsman replied. "Am I ever going to get a straight answer from you?" Asuna demanded. "Perhaps someday when you earn it," Mataras replied, traces of amusement back in his voice. The tone annoyed his teammate, but she decided not to press the matter. It was clear that if Mataras didn't want to give an answer, he wasn't going to give one, no matter the person's status or demands. After battling their way through the dungeon for a couple of hours, the party reached the boss room. Everyone took a short break time to check and see and make use of their inventory. Kirito, Asuna, and Mataras were positioned in the rear guard to provide backup and hold off the sentinels. If it came down to it, they were to attack the boss, should the first part of the plan go awry. Kirito wasn't sure if they were being treated as aces or if they'd just been snubbed because they were the smallest group. But the time for wondering was over. Diamo, the lead raider, opened the doors and led the charge inside the room. At first the place was just a cold gray tone all around, but then the boss leaped down from its throne and let out a roar that shook the hall. The floors and walls seemed to respond to the sound, lighting up with a myriad of colors of all kinds. The boss was called Ilthang the Kobold Lord, and as soon as it hit the floor, its armored minions began to spawn. The boss itself towered over all the players, measuring several meters in height. To Mataras, it looked like a big, fat, red kangaroo with an axe and a buckler. Had this not been a life and death game, he would have laughed at the sight. But Diablo called his group into action, ordering them to take out the minions. Kirito moved forward in response to block the first blow from one of the mobs, deflecting it with a sword skill. He leaped backwards, calling Asuna out to switch in and stab the creature with her own skills. Her speed and ferocity impressed both Kirito and his hooded companion. The tip of her rapier moved so fast they could barely keep track of where she was stabbing her adversary. This combo alone was able to fell one of the minions, leaving Mataras to take the lead for the next monster to appear. When it came, Mataras surprised both Asuna and Kirito by sliding under the enemy's blow instead of parrying it. Springing upwards, the young man slashed at his opponent, landing a critical hit on its face and killing it instantly. What surprised his teammates more than anything was that he had one-shot the monster without any skills being activated. But there was no time to question his fighting style as he called for Kirito to switch in for the next minion. Casting aside their questions for now, Asuna and Kirito moved into position. Nearly 20 minutes of fighting later, Ilfang's last health bar dipped into the red zone, and the monster retreated briefly with a roar. As predicted by the guidebook, the monster cast aside his weapon and shield, but unlike the guidebook that Mataras had read, Ilfang pulled out an Odachi instead of a Talwar. Before he warned the others, though, Diablo was telling everyone to move aside. Mataras' eyes widened as he realized that the man intended to take on the boss alone. Before he could call out to the leader, though, someone beat him to it. "No, don't!" Kirito shouted as Diablo activated his sword skill. "It's no good!" His warning came too late. An Odachi was longer in reach than a Talwar, meaning that Ilfang could attack from outside the range of Diablo's cavalry sword. The boss struck twice, faster than Diablo could anticipate. The second blow sent him flying next to Kirito's roof. Kirito trusted Asuna and Mataras to keep the sentinels off of him while he ministered to Diablo. "What the hell were you thinking?" he muttered as he tried to give Diablo a potion before his health ran out. To his shock, Diablo refused to take the item. "You knew," he whispered to Kirito. "You were a beta tester." "You're just like me, aren't you?" Kirito asked in response. "You were after the last attack bonus, the rare item." And Diablo gave a weak grin, his health points down to a shred. "Your friend's there. You have to beat the boss. For everyone here." His health bar disappeared. Then so did he. Mataras' eyes widened in rage as he saw Diablo vanish. He had been a good leader, despite his underhanded attempt at trying to get the drop item that would no doubt be dropped should he defeat the boss. Of all the people that had to die, why did it have to be him? Greed, he thought, pushing the other thoughts aside. No matter how noble he appeared, he wanted to make himself stronger in the end, even if it meant doing something underhanded. You and I weren't so different, were we? I'm sorry, Diablo. The least I can do is honor your last wish. He and Asuna stood beside Kirito, weapons ready. Asuna's jaw was set and her posture was radiating determination. Mataras' eyes blazed with anger at the Kobold Lord and at the world from which it came. Kirito stood up and said, "You guys with me?" "What does it look like?" Mataras growled menacingly, his glare fixed on the boss, which was now swatting the other players like flies. "I'll go with you, yeah," Asuna added. Kirito nodded and the three of them dashed forward. "Let's do this, just like the minions!" he cried. "One of us counters, the others attack right after." "Who blocks?" Mataras asked just before they got in range. "Me!" Kirito swung his blade to counter the Nodachi, moving in fast to get inside the range of the long weapon. When the weapon was knocked back, Asuna used her superior speed to get behind the boss and stab him multiple times, while Mataras opened a large wound across the monster's chest. When it attempted to retaliate, Mataras ducked the blow just in time. He noticed that the boss's health was almost completely gone, and he could land the final blow to end the fight then and there. Instead, he called out, "Switch!" Not sure why he was doing this, Kirito switched in as Ilfang spun around and slashed at Asuna. He missed killing her, but the blow shredded her cloak, dissolving it into polygons. This gave Kirito the perfect opportunity to land the final blow and destroy the first boss. Letting out his war cry, Kirito swung his blade with all the power he could, laying open Ilfang's back and causing it to glow brightly as its final health points depleted. The monster let out one last ear-piercing roar before shattering to thousands of blue and green shards. The three victors hardly took notice of the fact that they just received a generous amount of coal, nor the stat boosts that came from a double level up, or even that the room had settled back to normal. They were all just too tired to care. "That was some fine swordsmanship," a voice said, followed by a hand that helped Kirito rise from his slot position. Mataras recognized Agil, the man that had spoken in defense of the beta testers. "Today's victory is thanks to you three." Kirito shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "We wouldn't have gotten this far without Diablo. He's the reason we're here." "Then why'd you let him die, huh?" A broken, angry voice shouted from the back of the room. The voice belonged to Kibao, the man that had tried to pin the blame of SAO incident on the beta testers. "What are you talking about, you fool?" Mataras asked in a low voice that still carried in the silence of the boss room. "You heard me!" this man ranted. "Your partner saw what was coming! He knew the boss's attack patterns and weapon! So why didn't he tell us?" Because this wasn't like the beta! Kirito shouted back. Dead silence followed that particular comment. The young swordsman held his gaze at those that looked accusingly at him. Only those close to him saw his brown sheen and a nervous sweat. That's right, Kirito said, feigning confidence. I was in the beta test, and even though I may not have known that Ilfang was going to have that weapon this time around, I definitely knew the skill set that would come with it. Why? Because unlike most of the other testers, I actually knew what I was doing to begin with. Most of the other people that scored a slot in the beta were so green, they didn't even know how to level up. You guys are even better than they were. As he was speaking, Kirito was actually advancing on his accuser, causing Kibao to eye him warily. But me? I'm nothing like those guys. Kirito was actually managing to imitate an evil grin. During the beta, I made it to floors higher than anyone else. That's how I knew how to beat the boss's attack patterns, because I fought monsters on higher levels with even better skill sets and weapons. Kirito was now only a few feet away from Kibao, which is where he stopped walking forward. I know a bunch of other things too, Kirito added. More than you can imagine. More than any info broker. Now he waited to see what the reaction from the others would be. If that's true, Kibao snarled, you're worse than a beta tester! You're a goddamn cheater! That's what you are! Others began to take up the call as Mataras joined Kirito in the case of a fight. Cheater! Someone called out. Hacker! Another cried. He's a beta tester and a cheater! Still another snapped. He's a beater! To their shock, Kirito's dark smile widened as he accessed his menu. A beater, he replied. Yeah, that's good. I like it. What? Kibao sputtered. Go ahead and call me a beater, Kirito said nonchalantly. Just don't confuse me with those other testers again. It's not cool. With that, he equipped the midnight coat and began walking out of their midst, but his accusers had one last barb to cast. So you think you're better than us, you son of a... Kibao's voice was silenced by the presence of a blade at his throat. The sword scratched his neck, leaving a red mark and causing his health to dip down into the red zone. The man found the eyes of the one wielding it to be even more frightening than Ilfang's mightiest roar. Mataras' dark eyes blazed with the wrath of an impending storm. They were devoid of any patience, pity, or compassion. They were the eyes of a man ready to kill without hesitation. Kibao found that the sight locked up his vocal cords, which was exactly what Mataras wanted. You aware of the law of the sword? The boy said in a quiet tone that was somehow more frightening than any amount of yelling that Kibao had expected. When the loudmouth didn't respond, Mataras continued, the law of the sword is this. If he is more dedicated than you, he will win. Kirito has more drive than anyone here, and that's why he won against Ilfang. You were just happy to sit back and let the others do the heavy work, Kibao. That's why at the end of every encounter, you will be the loser. Not because he was a beta tester, not because he became a beater, but because simply that he has the drive to win. Because he understands the law of the sword. Against anyone else, Kibao would have shouted obscenities at them, but seeing the look in Mataras' eyes, remembering his skill against Ilfang and his minions, and taking note of how fast that blade had appeared at his throat, Kibao decided to content himself with plotting the two boys' humiliation at a later date. Seeing that nobody was going to give Kirito any further difficulties, Mataras sheathed his sword and began following Kirito. When they reached the top of the stairs, Kirito looked at Mataras in the eye for a moment before pulling up his menu. I guess this is goodbye, he said as he went to dissolve their party. No, it's not. Mataras shook his head slightly as Asuna walked up. She should try to distance herself from us, but I'll stick with you. Why? Both Asuna and Kirito were surprised. Well, they hate all you and me. Mataras replied. But you, Asuna? You can still claim innocence. You can still become part of a guild. Be a part of the assault team. But if you hang around us, you'll be a leper. No one will want anything to do with you. It's best if you find someone you trust and join up with them. Asuna hesitated, not wanting to admit that what the enigmatic sword user said made sense. But it did. So she opened her menu and left the party. As she walked away from the two boys without another word, her expression unreadable. They watched as she went back to talk to Agio before moving on to trigger the next floor's warp gate. Maybe when things die down, we can meet again on better terms, Mataras said quietly. Maybe, Kirito repeated. Thanks, Mataras. For what? In this death game, it'll be real handy having you around. The black-coated swordsman answered. So thanks for sticking your neck out for me. No problem, Mataras replied. I could just let you take all that heat on your own. That was noble of you, to offer yourself to the hate like that. Not many people would have done as much. Nothing more was said as the two friends entered the second floor of Aincrad. Star Sword, Chapter 1. Oops. Kirito, Asuna said as she bit her lip nervously. Are you sure this is going to work? What happens if this project fails? Will Yui be okay? Kazuto smiled patiently at his girlfriend and replied with as much reassurance as he could. Don't worry about it. I made sure Yui's data is on multiple backups, so even if something happens this time around, her core programming will be alright. Kazuto turned his attention back to the dome-like machine that he had worked so hard to create over the past 2 years. In theory, it would convert Yui's electronic data into real-life flesh and blood. He plugged his World Seed cartridge in, and then moved to hook up his nerve gear to another port. He lit up his computer console and began typing in commands at a furious pace. Asuna watched him nervously, praying that their daughter would come out of this whole thing safe and sound. The machine roared to life, and Asuna turned her attention to it. Inside the glass dome, a shape made of light began to take place. She gasped as the shape began to consolidate into the form of a small girl. Kazuto smiled broadly as he saw all of his hard work begin to pay off. Then the monitor began to flash red. Asuna noticed it and frowned. Kirito? What's happening? I'm not sure. The boy frowned as he began to type new commands into the computer. Looking over at Yui, they both saw that she was nearly formed, and nothing appeared to be out of order. But the computer says that there's some kind of external influence. There's some kind of external influence, adding an extra flux of power. Kazuto frowned harder. And I can't locate the source. It's locking me out, and I can't shut it down. What'll happen to Yui? Asuna looked back at the little girl, who appeared to be a sleeping child with a soft glow about her, almost like an angel. But this little angel might also be in trouble. Isn't there any way to override it? The flame-haired girl asked as she placed her hands on the dome. Only one, Kazuto said as he got off his seat. He grabbed a crowbar that he had used during construction and prepared to swing it at the dome. Stand back! You might hurt Yui! Asuna protested. I'd rather fix a few cuts than have her program messed with, Kazuto snapped. Now get back! I don't want to hurt you either! Asuna reluctantly stepped aside and renewed her prayer that all would be well. Kazuto swung at the glass, and the world went blindingly white. The two teenagers were flung backwards from the force of the explosion, and they couldn't see Yui. Then, when the light faded, all was black. Oh, what the hell? Kazuto muttered. He groaned as he got up off the sand? Looking around, he noticed a great number of things. First was that he was in some kind of sand arena, up against a cleft in the wall that mostly hid him from view. Second was that Asuna and Yui were also coming too. Third was that there was a massive battle going on between an army of robots and humanoids wielding what looked like his light blade from Gun Gale Online. The only difference was the blades were green and blue, not purple. Well, he saw one purple blade, but that was beside the point. The last thing he noticed was that there was a number of dead biological sword users, and their swords were all lying around, deactivated. A massive silver robot tread heavily over toward Asuna and Yui before extending its arm, which bore a built-in gun. Not bothering to consider his actions, Kazuto picked up one of the hilts and hit the biggest button on the bar. The battle droid took careful aim and was about to trigger its execution function when its arm was suddenly sheared off by a blue blade of light. Before its processors could determine what had just happened, Kazuto slashed it in half. Swinging the blade experimentally, he muttered, "Not bad at all. A little light, and I like this thing." Then he focused on getting his girls to their feet. Asuna was the first to get a hold of the situation, also picking up a light blade and activating it. Yui was still a little out of it, so Kazuto told her to stay between him and Asuna. The girl agreed groggily and stood a trifle unsteadily. Kazuto and Asuna then stood back to back, with Yui between them. A laser blast flew at Kazuto, but he deflected it with his sword. When all the time in GGO would pay off like this, he thought to himself. Then he focused on defending his family. After what seemed like 20 minutes, the droids suddenly stopped fighting. They stood stock still, awaiting new commands. Kazuto was certain. He noticed that only about 20 of the sword users now stood. The rest were dead. They were gathered in more or less the middle of the arena, a bad position, the two warriors knew. "Daddy, what's happening?" Yui asked in a very small voice. "I'm not sure, honey," he said, "but I think those people over there might need our help." "You want to go over there?" Asuna hissed. "Are you insane?" "Strength in numbers," Kazuto replied evenly. "Come on, we might as well go while these things aren't moving." As he began to move with his family through the field of robots, on the way, Kazuto made sure to pick up several more of the swords and tuck them into his belt, just in case something might happen to the one that he was using now. Asuna and Yui followed suit, although her parents told the little girl to try and stay out of the line of fire. A powerful pair of voices traded arguments for some time, one coming from the podium above the arena, and the other from the group of warriors. When the exchange was over, the family had reached the circle, just in time for the droids to take aim again. "Aw, man," Kazuto gulped. "Who are you?" a young man with a green blade asked. "Let's just say that we're here to offer what help we can and leave it at that," Asuna replied sharply. "We've got more important things to work..." "What the..." Her voice trailed off as a loud hum filled the air and she looked up. Kazuto and the rest of the fighters looked up to see an entire armada suddenly swoop down to decimate the robot army. The ships formed a perimeter around the survivors, shielding them from laser blasts that began heading their way, and granting them a much-needed rest. The doors on the ships began to open, and the family headed for the nearest one. Incidentally, they boarded the one with the young man that had questioned Asuna earlier, along with a relatively young woman and an older man with a beard and long hair. As the ship began to take off, and Yui sat down on a chair exhausted. "What is a youngling doing here?" the older man shouted. He was outraged. "Believe me, I wish I knew," Kazuto shouted to be heard above the noise, "but we have no idea how we got here, or why." The three people exchanged glances before the two men closed their eyes and furrowed their brows. Then the older one said, "You speak truthfully. May we have your names?" An explosion rocked the ship, causing Kazuto to check on Yui and Asuna before he answered. When he was certain that they were safe, he turned back and said, "My name is Kirito. Asuna is my girlfriend and Yui is our adopted daughter." "Your what?" the bearded man said. How? Oh, never mind. We'll figure this out later. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi. My apprentice here is Anakin Skywalker, escort to Senator Padme Amidala." He gestured to each person as he named them. "Sir Kenobi, may I ask what's happening right now?" Asuna asked. "We are attempting to prevent the man's escape," the man answered. "His name is Count Dooku, and he's basically responsible for the whole battle. If we don't catch him, he could be the start of an entire war that will consume the galaxy." Kazuto mused. "In that case, you might want these." And he handed Obi-Wan an extra light blade. Asuna did the same with Anakin, but when she attempted to give one to Padme, the woman turned it down, saying that the blaster suited her just fine. "Target sighted!" the pilot shouted. "Shoot him down!" Anakin shouted. "We're out of rockets, sir," was the reply. Anakin scowled deeply. "You're gonna need some help," Padme insisted. Obi-Wan shook his head. "There's not enough time. Anakin and I can handle him." Padme looked unconvinced, but she made no further objections. "We'll go too," Kazuto announced. Asuna nodded her agreement to this statement. The warriors looked at one another before nodding again. "We would be grateful to you," Obi-Wan said. "But why are you so eager to help?" "Because if that guy is responsible for all those deaths back there, he reminds me of a certain someone," Kazuto answered. "And I'm not too fond of said character. An explosion rocked the ship, causing Asuna and Padme to be thrown out of the door. Kazuto barely managed to keep Yui from falling out as well. "Asuna!" he shouted. "Damn it! Mommy!" Yui screamed. In the distance, they could see the two ships were following them, firing plasma blasts at them, seeking to shoot them down. Even further back, Kazuto and Yui could see that Padme was unconscious, but Asuna was upright. She was making a motion that clearly said to keep going. "Put the ship down!" Anakin roared. "No!" Obi-Wan and Kazuto shouted right back. "Follow Dooku!" the older man shouted at the pilot. "They'll be fine," the younger warrior said to the enraged fighter. "Asuna can protect them both." "I don't care! Put the ship down!" Anakin shouted, half angry, half pleading. "Asuna says to keep going, so that's what we're going to do," Kazuto shouted back. "I trust her. Don't you trust your friend? What would she say if your positions were reversed?" This stopped Anakin cold. Finally, he said, "She would do her duty." Asuna watched the ship fly off, hoping that they could accomplish their task. But for now, she needed to find a way out of this desert. Padme was slowly coming to, for which Asuna was grateful. She didn't want to have to carry a full-grown adult through the sand, and there was the possibility that she might have a way to contact some of the other rescuers. "Oh," Padme groaned. "What?" Then Asuna saw the light of memory return, and she helped the other woman to her feet. "Do you have any way to contact your friends?" the flame-haired girl asked. "Up until a few minutes ago, I wasn't even aware that I had this many friends," Padme said groggily, "so no, I don't. Sorry." "Then I guess we better start walking," Asuna sighed. "Come on, and keep that gun of yours handy. I'm hoping that we run into some soldiers instead of the robots, but there's no guarantees about either." "When we land, get out of here and get some reinforcements," Obi-Wan ordered. "I don't care who they are as long as they can help us capture Dooku." "Yes, sir. We're transmitting our coordinates right now, sir," the clone trooper at the helm said sharply. "Do you think someone can help us in time?" Kazuto asked. "Not very likely," Obi-Wan admitted, "but we have to try and stop him ourselves. Help or no help. This war depends on it." "My daddy will help, no problem," Yui said brightly. "He always catches the bad guy, no matter where he goes." And she gave a bewildered Obi-Wan her brightest smile. Before he could ask a question, though, Kazuto pointed at some rapidly approaching cliffs. "Is that our destination?" he asked. "I think so," Obi-Wan answered. "I see a landing platform and a docking bay." "Yui, once we get inside those cliffs, find someplace safe to hide and stab anybody you don't recognize that tries to get you out. Understand?" He looked at the little girl seriously as she nodded back at him. "I will," she said. "Don't worry about me, Daddy. I'll be fine. Just get the bad guy." When they landed, the ship was finally hit directly by the laser fire, causing it to blow up and send Kazuto flying down the catwalk. He was the last to emerge, shielding Yui with his body as Anakin and Obi-Wan ran off the ship. They stopped when they saw that he was hurt, but he groaned and waved at them. "Go!" he shouted. "Get your man!" "I'll be fine." They hesitated only a split second more before dashing into the caves. Then Kazuto passed out. When he came to, Yui was pulling on his arm frantically. "Daddy, get up! I think Mr. Kenobi and Anakin are in trouble." "Huh?" Kazuto shot up and shook his head foggily. "What? Oh, right." He got up quickly, swaying as dizziness washed over him, but he managed to right himself again. The unsteadiness vanished, but the explosion had left him aching and with minor burns. Looking down at his daughter, he was glad to see she was unharmed except for a couple of scrapes on her arm. "Okay," he said. "I'll go find them. You stay hidden like I told you to, all right?" "Yes, Daddy." Yui nodded. Then they headed into the caves. Kazuto walked in just in time to see Anakin have his arm removed and being flung by an invisible force to lie beside his master, who was suffering from some very severe burn marks. Their attacker was a surprisingly older man wielding a red light blade, and said blade was coming up to finish the two warriors. Kazuto leaped forward at top speed, two blue blades coming to life in his hands. One turned the red blade away from its course, the other sped toward the Count's neck. Although he managed to save Anakin and Obi-Wan's life, his second blade missed its mark. The Count spun away and under the attack, showing a surprising amount of agility and dexterity, despite his white hair and beard. Then with a voice that he recognized from the arena, the man said, "These younglings seem to equate foolishness with bravery." He scowled. "What's the matter, Count?" Kazuto taunted. "Feeling tired already? Our duel hasn't even gotten started yet." "There will be no duel for you, young Padawan," the man replied. Then he sheathed his blade and stretched out his right hand. Blue lightning shot out from his fingertips, straight at Kazuto. He responded by crossing his blades in an X to block the lightning like he would a magic spell. The block worked, but he was finding it harder to do so than he remembered. After a few seconds, the man let up on the lightning, and Kazuto smirked while taking his stance. "Out of mana?" he grinned. "Hardly, if you are asking if I am having difficulties connecting to the Force," Dooku responded. Then he activated his blade again. "But I can sense the Force is strong in you, young Jedi, so you will have your duel." "I don't really get half of what you just said, kind of like everyone else in this world," Kazuto said. "But I do get the part where you said, 'Let's fight, so let's get on with it.'" And he charged at Dooku, his twin blades moving quickly into position. He tried to use the fact that he had two blades to his advantage, but his opponent was clearly a master of his craft. Dooku moved with elegance and ferocity in equal measures, and Kazuto found himself with his hands full despite all of his own skills. Also, the Count never seemed to tire, which puzzled Kazuto. Shouldn't the old man be tiring faster than him? It just didn't make sense. At one point, one of his hilts was sliced off near the top, killing the blade and forcing Kazuto backwards, both from surprise and the shock of the burn on his hand. But he quickly responded by recovering and activating one of the spares on his belt. With both green and blue blades in hand, he redoubled his efforts to take down the strange old man. But in the end, Kazuto once again found that his own power was insufficient. Dooku disabled both of his blades with a hyper-fast swipe before throwing him the length of the room with the same unseen force that he had thrown Anakin with. Kazuto grunted as he was thrown against the wall, near to where Obi-Wan and his apprentice lay. All three of them were utterly exhausted. One was crippled by burns, one was missing a limb, and the last one was thoroughly disoriented. None of them stood a chance as Dooku moved to finish the job. "Get away from my daddy!" his small voice cried out from the entrance. Dooku whirled to see a little girl with long black hair and fierce gray eyes in a white dress, holding a smaller length green lightsaber. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. The sight was enough to make Dooku smile with amusement. "I was under the impression that it is still forbidden for Jedi to be married, or even have children," Dooku mused. "Have the rules changed as of late?" Nobody answered him, half of them because they were out of it, and half because they had no idea what he was talking about. The man shrugged and began to move toward Yui, his blade ready to kill. "Sunk down, you truly have," a very old, gravely voice said from around the corner behind Yui. "Moving to attack a youngling, hmm?" A little green alien relying heavily on a walking stick moved into the light behind Yui, followed quickly by Asuna and Padme. The two women saw all the men collapse, and they tried to go help them, but the little alien stopped them with his staff. "Need help they do," he said, "but only after the danger has passed. Handle this one alone, I will." And he began shuffling toward the old man, though compared to the Count, he looked positively ancient. "We'll help you," Asuna said, but the old alien waved her back. "Help me you cannot. End up like your friends you will. And enough friends we have lost today." His pointy ears drooped sadly as he said this. Finally, he stood face to knee with the Count. and then Kazuto passed out from the exhaustion and pain.
Hey guys, Not Sure Average Joe here. It's been a while since I've actually put up anything content-worthy, let's call it. But I really want to get back into doing things. And to do that, I decided to go back to some of my old stories and turn them into audiobooks. This is something that's been coming up a lot more often lately, both on fanfiction.net and in my personal life. People seem to like it when I read to them, so I figured, hey, might as well start making some videos out of it. Now here comes the cool part. I'm setting up a poll on my fanfiction.net profile, and I want you guys to vote on which of the 3 stories you just heard to be continued. I will get back around to the other 2 eventually, but I want you guys to decide which one I'm going to do first. How does that sound? Please like, subscribe, share this video, get the word out that the Toe of Aincrad, the Slayer of Aincrad, or Fire Sword, or Star Sword, you'll be coming back, and you'll be hearing it in my voice. I'll be doing all the voices, so that might get a little bit funny, as you might have just seen. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to do something a little fun for you guys, and I hope you guys see you guys. Jeez, I've spent like 2 hours recording, and I apparently just can't do English anymore, but thanks so much for watching, you guys. Thank you so much for being here in the first place. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Red Swordsman out.